The world is changing, not only the world we live in, but the world we live on.
New study this week in the journal Nature found mountain glaciers are melting more than twice as rapidly as in the early 2000s. They lost more than 600 billion tons of ice in 2023 when national environmental correspondent David Schecter visited Svalbard, Norway.
If you didn't think we were at the end of the world, well, we're going to go a little bit farther now.
The closer you get to Svalbard, Norway, the smaller the planes get. But that's not even the end of the journey. To study glaciers at the top of the world,
it's dramatic to see the changes from year to year.
Scientist Jack Kohler can only get to them by boat or chopper. He's an American who's been studying melting glaciers for nearly 30 years with the Norwegian Polar Institute.
This just goes endlessly this way, and we're on the river of ice. We're on the glacier.
We visited him in September 2023 at the end of Norway's summer, 600 miles from the North Pole. 6 months before, Kohler had driven a series of stakes deep into the ice. Then he came back to measure how much of the stakes were exposed.
In April, the ice surface would have been around here. So that much ice has melted during the summer.
Really?
Yeah.
So this was
buried in ice.
Bored into the ice.
Yeah.
And now it's all exposed.
And now it's exposed.
Oh my gosh. The calculations that he's making are really basic. Water out and then no sort of new ice in means that these glaciers are disappearing, and that's what he's measuring. And it's happening fast up here, really fast.
Kohler says this past year, melting here broke 58 years of records at a rate of melting that was 3.5 times the long-term average. The findings here are consistent with the latest research from around the world.
What's the connection between your work and climate change?
Well, we're documenting the effect of the climate change locally here, of course, but I have colleagues all over the globe who are doing similar things, and they're all seeing the same thing.
The impact of melting glaciers is sea level rise, which affects every coastal community in America.
If you live in Florida, you're seeing the effect of sea level rise already. There's plenty of pictures of very high tides, which are not caused by any storms or anything. It's just a daily occurrence. And this is because sea level is inexorably rising, and glaciers are contributing very significantly to that.
And David Schecter joins us now from Dallas. David, even before you went to Svalbard, you'd been covering this story for years. So when this study came out this week, were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised. This is part of a large body of research from scientists who continue to work on this issue from around the world. I could see it with my own eyes in Svalbard. I've seen it on glaciers in Alaska. You can see the rising sea levels in the lower side of Manhattan on the east side, where they're building a multi-billion-dollar seawall. You can see it out in San Diego, where there's a train line that's being impacted by higher waters that start to erode the cliffs. This is, if you look, this is a problem, and this new research just is a continuation of this.
David, it seemed like an intense experience to be there in Norway. Were you affected by what you saw?
I really was. It was one of those moments I didn't know what I was walking into necessarily. He said, let's go do something called a mass balance. I wasn't sure what that was. And to be there standing 6 feet tall and have that stake be several feet over my head, I really was, as you saw, just quite shocked to understand that's what happens in the course of one season.